to your seats. Justin Muturi is not just walking away from his sacking, he is lighting a fire under President William Ruto's feet and daring him to feel the heat. Days after being axed as the Public Service Cabinet Secretary, Justin Muturi stormed the spotlight on April 2nd, 2025 with a press address that is less a farewell and more a battle cry.
But the matter of abductions and extrajudicial killings has never been discussed. I was therefore, like many Kenyans, was surprised to hear the president on live television on the evening of 31st of March stating that the issue had been discussed in cabinet and had been resolved.
This is not a man slinking off into the shadows. He is a rebel with a cause, and he's got the receipts to prove it.
This is because, ladies and gentlemen, apart from the fact that I was personally affected, there are several Kenyan families, friends, and relatives of Kenyan youth who still are missing. Others have been found dead, and others released after undergoing a lot of torment.
The genesis of Muturi's defiance did not spark overnight. Rewind the clock. This is a man who has been simmering with discontent for months, a slow burn that erupted into full-on rebellion.
Na wengine kuteswa na wengine pia kupoteza maisha yao imekuwa janga kubwa.
Back when he still had a cabinet seat, Muturi was not shy about ruffling feathers. His beef, the government's deafening silence on abductions and extrajudicial killings plaguing Kenya.
If I am fired for speaking against abductions and extrajudicial killings in this country, which is unconstitutional and which we as a government campaigned and very vehemently, repeatedly vowed that it will never happen on our watch, so be it.
Long before his dismissal, he had been vocal, castigating Ruto's administration for what he called a shameful refusal to confront the rising tide of enforced disappearances.
Nimeonelea kwamba hilo jambo ni lazima lizungumziwe katika baraza la mawaziri.
That showdown hit its stride when Muturi drew a line in the sand. No more cabinet meetings until abductions and police brutality topped the agenda. It was not just talk, he walked the talk.
The third cabinet meeting took place on the 11th of March 2025 at State House, Nairobi. And like in the other two, I had been invited and sent the agenda for the day. The item on abductions and extrajudicial killings was still missing on the agenda.
November 3rd, 2025, a third cabinet meeting loomed at State House in Nairobi. Muturi got the invite, skimmed the agenda, and found, you guessed it, zero mention of the issues had been hammering. Those letters sent straight to Ruto's desk, piling up like unanswered prayers. The president's response, a big, fat zilch. To Muturi, it was a proof this is not a priority for him or his cabinet.
Once again, I wrote directly to the president in a letter dated 10th of March, again referring to the previous two letters and reiterating my position. And I did beseech the president this time around to direct that the vexing issue of abductions and extrajudicial killings in our country be prioritized and placed on the agenda for any future cabinet meetings. Ladies and gentlemen, to date, the president has never acknowledged receipt nor responded to any of my letters, clearly thereby indicating that the matter of abductions and extrajudicial killings is not worthy of his attention or that of the cabinet.
Fast forward to his sacking, and Muturi is not buying Ruto's spin that he was fired for dodging duty.
Since my reasons for not attending cabinet are clearly stated in the letters that I have referred to, the inference one draws from my sacking is that raising the issue of abductions and extrajudicial killings must be terribly annoying to the president. It is no wonder that those closest to the president have variously been in different fora calling for my resignation and or sacking.
I was silenced for speaking truth, he blasted on Wednesday, tearing into the president's narrative. Ruto's claim of disbanding rogue police squads. Muturi scoffed, pointing to fresh abduction reports that mock the promise of reform.
It was shocking to hear the president in the same televised interview saying that upon assuming office, he disbanded a police squad which, in his own words, had been responsible for the abductions and killings of people and dumping their bodies in River Yala and other river.
Who is fooling who? He challenged, his defiance a red-hot ember in the face of his ousting. His rebellion's root dig into a bedrock of frustration, a government he accuses of turning a blind eye while families mourn and human rights groups scream bloody murder.
From what I've stated above, it is clear that what the president has said about my not attending cabinet meetings is untrue and perhaps confirms what we have been seeing on social media, where many Kenyans are overwhelmingly doubting anything that the president says.
With Kenya's human rights record under a microscope and forced disappearances and police killings drawing global gasps, the government's yet to clap back at Muturi's allegations.
If the state was serious about abductions, it would say what it means and mean what it says. Okay. That abductions will stop, that abductions are unacceptable, and that it will nail to the wall perpetrators of abductions, to the extent that there are no comprehensive investigations, that nobody has been arrested and arraigned and followed through. It therefore follows and implies that it is the state itself that is doing these abductions, no matter what they say.
But the ex-CS is not waiting for a reply. His rebellion, born from months of ignored pleas and fueled by a dismissal he calls a sham, is a full onslaught on the status quo. Sacked, sure. Silenced, not a chance. Muturi is out of the cabinet, but he is charging headfirst into the fray, and Kenya's watching every move. Newsroom, Reader carrying Chebet.